I like him. He's a good man. He is not a racist, I can tell you that. He's a good person. He actually gets a very unfair press in that regard. But we'll see what happens with Mr. Bannon.
President, they're talking about Chief White House strategist Steve Bannon, who seems to be facing a bit of an uncertain future tonight. A spate of recent reports say that his ouster could be imminent. Democrats have definitely gotten on board. 4 minority House caucus groups have joined forces to make demands of President Trump. They wrote a letter stating this: Americans deserve to know that white nationalists, white supremacists, and neo-Nazis are not in a position to influence U.S. policy. That is why we continue to find Steve Bannon's presence in your administration incredibly alarming and dangerous to our nation and to the world. I'm joined now by California Congresswoman Karen Bass, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, calling for Mr. Bannon's removal. Congresswoman, good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So on what are you basing that assessment of Steve Bannon?
Well, let's be clear. It's also not just about Steve Bannon. It's Steve Bannon, it's Gorka, it's Miller.
That's right.
The letter called for the ouster of all 3. And frankly, the demand that happened was immediate. As soon as the president took over in January, there were letters to the White House saying that we thought that having a person like Steve Bannon in the White House sends a terrible message. After such a divisive campaign, we need to have people that are more inclusive. Him coming off of Breitbart News and the way Breitbart News, first of all, promoted the alt-right, which in our opinion is just another term for white nationalists or white supremacists. The way he, specifically Bannon, has been very racially divisive, we thought that, you know, after the inauguration, the country needed to heal.
Let me ask you this. Steve Bannon's pretty quiet. I mean, he's not somebody that you hear from very often. We're all familiar with Breitbart News and some of the headlines that you may be using to put these very serious labels on this man. So I'm asking you, nobody likes to be labeled things, the kind of things that you just, white nationalists, neo-Nazi, I mean, these are extraordinarily strong statements. So I am asking you, because I'm about to talk to someone who knows him quite well, and I've spoken to other people who know him quite well. I do not know him quite well. What specifically, when you're going to do that, you need to have some evidence of what's in his heart. So I'm asking, how do you know what is in his heart?
Well, who knows what's in anyone's heart?
Exactly.
But what I can tell you is that when he was in charge of Breitbart News and the way he was in charge of it, the way they attacked the African-American community, you know that Steve Bannon has lots of famous quotes, what he's had to say about women, a lot of things that have been attributed to him, his perspective, the way he encouraged the president around the anti-immigrant stand. I mean, there's a long list of issues that have been very, very divisive that Steve Bannon has prided himself is his contribution to the
Let me ask you another
administration.
Question. Let me ask you another question. Because what I see that's dangerous that's happening in America right now is that everyone is sort of in one silo or the other, right? There's very little room for people to have differences of opinion. And they are very quickly labeled awful things like neo-Nazi and white nationalist, okay? And names on the other side, on the left side as well. So does that concern you? Because you are doing that to him. And so I'm wondering if you would like to be put in that kind of silo, in that kind of labeled box, based on someone who didn't know you.
Well, if somebody wanted to look at me and wanted to look at my record, they could certainly never put me in a box like that because I have not had a history of that. I think if you look at Breitbart News, if you look at Steve Bannon, if you look at what his history has been, and again, I said this is not just about Bannon, this is about Gorka, his anti-immigrant stance, the writings that he has contributed. If you look at Stephen Miller, it's all of them together, and it sends a message about this administration that to me it was not surprising. Now, well,
I gotta go. I'm sorry.
I mean.
I hear you, and I think you made your point, and I thank you for being here, but I do want to save time for my other guests as well. Your point is well made. Karen Bass, thank you very much.